Hello, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. We are so excited to be back for another episode. It seems like all of the holidays have been falling on Sundays, which is kind of, or around Sunday, I guess. Last week was Memorial Day, so it was a little bit crazy, but we're back and we're going to continue to show up for you guys and make sure that we do what we can to add value and continue our mission of No More Sundays. So we're excited to be here. So real quick before we get started, you may have seen my post from before, but please post your questions since we are going to try to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions, for answering those on while we're on live. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to leave questions as well, and we can obviously answer those at a later time. So, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. So, we've both been pretty active on social media for a while now. We have both used it to build businesses and to connect with people in general. And there's a variety of different platforms. We're going to try to go into some of that tonight. But we thought a good place to start would be to talk a little bit about who do you want to show up as on social media?
Yeah, and just a preface. I think we're in a really unique time where you can build a business or following basically from scratch and with very little investment money-wise.
Right.
Which is really exciting and really awesome, but that I think people think that it could be easy and it's like an easy way to build a business, or like it's a shortcut and all I have to do is get on Instagram and I'm gonna blow up and be able to create this company or whatever, sell books or whatever it is. And it takes a ton of work. It takes a ton of time and grit and just keeping going, because the great thing about this new age, if you will, of being able to build businesses for very little investment is that everybody can do it, and the downside is that everybody can do it. And so you have to really stand out and find your place in this new world. And so it's a challenge.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great possibilities, but there's also some downsides. And so, like Megan said, we're trying to navigate that over the past couple years, and we're still trying to. But that's just something that I think people need to be realistic when they're are talking about using social media to build a business, build a following, have influence in some capacity. Even if you're, trying to just spread the word about a certain, if it was a not-for-profit or a church or something, it's the same deal. Getting your voice heard is not as easy as we might like to think sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's super important to note. Because it is easy to have these really big expectations when that's just not what this is. Would you agree that social media is playing the long game and not the short game?
Definitely, and we're going to talk about that some, but I think it is a long play, and you're building a really good thing to think about is that you're building trust with your followers. And you don't want to do anything that's going to shortcut that trust, that where you're going to try to either sell something or do anything that would compromise that trust. Exactly. Because you want to get a lot of followers immediately, or you want to have sell a product really quickly, and then that okay, this might be an immediate gain, but in the long run that's a very poor way to do it. And you're trying to build that trust with your followers, your community from day one. That is going to be a benefit 5 or 10 years down the road, not necessarily a month or two down the road.
Yeah, totally agree.
And we actually already have a question on how many hours a day do you spend building your brand? I'll let you answer this in a minute. I think for me, it's a little bit unique because I actually am trying to build two different, in a way, businesses or brands. One is more my books and coaching, and then my other one is my men's style. And so I have to kind of switch between those two, which, may or may not be a great thing, but I think it's through, I don't necessarily track because it's throughout the day, and building the brand in my mind, especially when you're a person, is you are the brand.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to present your authentic self, your authentic reality to people. And so, if you compiled all the hours up that I spend on social media in a day, interacting with people, trying to post new things, trying to follow new people, I would say it's probably 4 or so hours a day, I would guess. If not more, 4 to 6, I would say, if you totaled it all up for me. What about you?
Yeah, that's a difficult one for me to say. It really depends on the day for me, and so I appreciate this question. I'm mostly filtering everything that I do, whether it's being a violinist and violin instructor, that route, Arbonne consultant, person, Christian, all the things, everything about who I am, I'm trying to filter through pretty much one account. And so in working on building my own brand in that way, I really don't spend usually more than an hour a day on that, unless I feel like I really need to add a lot of things. For me, something that I spend the most time on is just stories. And we'll talk about this more, but stories are an amazing way to just really build that trust that Matt was saying earlier with your following. And I think we should also say, and I meant to say this earlier, even if you're not wanting to use social media to like build a brand or a business or whatever, if you want to have influence, if you want to be able to leave a mark in a positive way. I have a friend who I know every time she's on social media, she is so intentional about posting things that are really positive, that are shining her light for Christ, that are inviting people into who she is and the way that she wants to show up in the world. So this doesn't have to be like a for-profit thing. I think it can just be, even if you just want to show up better in the world and connect with people that maybe you wouldn't normally, or people who you don't live close to, this can still be applicable to you and can be a great thing for you to be able to apply to whatever social media you're on. And so we really wanted to start out with like, who are you? Who are you on social media? How are you showing up in that way? And one exercise that was given to me is, and you can of course chime in on this too, Matt, is just go on Facebook or whatever you're on the most and ask your friends and your followers and people that are there, what are some words that you would say clearly identify who you would say I would be. So I ask my friends and family on Facebook that I'm connected with there, what kind of words do you think of when you think of me? And I took some of those words and narrowed it down to about 5, I think, for me. But I would suggest maybe 3 to 5. I think that's a great place to start, because then you can kind of see, oh yeah, this does kind of identify. Because sometimes we look at ourselves and we go, oh, well, I don't really fit this and this and this. And we're kind of our own worst critic. And when somebody else says, oh, you exhibit this quality, this character or characteristic, it's like, oh, it's easier for us to see it when somebody else points that out, I think, at least for me. So that was something that was suggested to me, and I would say could be easily expounded upon in your bio. So that's wherever that is, and it'll look different on different platforms. We'll talk about that, but I think that's a great place to start when you're setting up your social media, when you're kind of making sure that it's looking the way you want it to look. So do you have anything to add to that?
Just on setting up your profile?
Yeah, making sure that your bio really reflects who you are.
Yeah, I think when people come to your social media, because of the attention span, you want it to be able to, if they aren't familiar with you, to get a good idea very quickly of what you're about.
Right.
And nobody wants to come to a place and immediately, if you are working on a business, nobody wants to necessarily be sold to off the top. So I agree with the approach of having it more who you are as a person, because like we said, you are kind of your own brand, but who you are as a person, the things that matter to you. When they look at your profile, what is going to get them to stay there and dig a little deeper into your post or whatever it is, your stories. And so it does need to be something that gives them a very quick look at who you are and what they should expect from your post. You want that to be congruent with what they're going to see on your page.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great place. Whatever words that you use in your bio or whatever is going to describe you is a great place to filter your posts from. And I think, like, for me, one of my words is joy, and so I try to filter what I share, how I show up in a joyful way. And it aligns with who I am. It's not somebody different than how I show up in the world. It's just a specific characteristic that I really feel represents who I am, and a way that I really try to tailor what I share and how I show up on social media, not just in every day. And that should feel very natural. It shouldn't feel like something that you're having to embody that doesn't align with who you are. So then from there, let's talk about platforms, because there's several of them. A lot of places that you can show up. And for me, this looks like I try to concentrate on about 2 to 3 personally, just because for the most part, because I feel like sometimes if you spread yourself so thin, it's hard to show up the way that you want to be able to show up, and you want to be able to add value and things like that in those ways when you are trying to post on all these millions of platforms and aren't really able to make the impact you could, because you're kind of trickling on all these little places.
Especially if you're getting started, you want to be able to understand a platform before diving into another one at least. And because it's just gonna be overwhelming, and
Right.
you don't want to want to remove that obstacle of getting started to thinking, oh, I got to be on LinkedIn, I got to be on Snapchat, I got to be on Facebook, I got to be on Instagram. Oh well, it's too much, I'm just not gonna be on anything.
Yeah, when we get overwhelmed.
So picking, and some businesses, or I'm just gonna use businesses just to make it easy, but whatever you're doing are going to be more conducive to certain platforms.
Oh, exactly, yes.
And so understanding what those are, where your tribe, if you will, where the people that are going to be most in tune with what you're trying to do is important.
Where are they hanging out? Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing is that's going to be important is understanding as newer platforms come up, just because they're going to be smaller originally, you have more chance to grow quicker on those platforms because there's more organic growth possibilities. Just for example, TikTok is kind of the newest player. And so a lot of people that have, were early to the game in TikTok had huge followings and huge exposure that they didn't have on Instagram or Facebook because it was so new, and it's just easier to get exposure there. Right. And so you have to kind of just understand what the game is and understand how you present yourself on these different platforms, and how different platforms are going to show up in different ways. And that doesn't mean you're not being authentic. But if you think about even in our day-to-day work, how I interact with you is going to be different than how I interact with friends, is different than how I interact at work. Right. Those are all parts of me, but I'm showing up differently in those spaces.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. How we show up in on different social media platforms is going to look different, and finding the right one for your business or for whatever your mission is important. So for me, Instagram is a huge one. Instagram is more business friendly. It's a place where people want to sell and buy things. And so I would say overall, people want to, that attraction marketing is a huge thing there. And so just sharing things that you're using and things that you're loving is very, very easy there. And so one really neat feature that if you're not aware, you gotta get in on this game is stories. Stories are, since Facebook is, I should say, since Instagram is owned by Facebook and Instagram are partnered in this way that you can do stories on both. And stories are little snaps, snippets of your day. It could be a picture, it could be a video, it could be a text blurb, and it's just giving people a taste of who you are. Maybe it's a quote that you like, maybe it's a video that you were inspired by, a little clip of it, maybe it's something that you are running and talking about things that you saw on your run today, or whatever it is. But it can be really simple and small little things. They're limited to about 30 seconds, right, or something like that.
They're 15 seconds.
Or 15 each. Seconds. 30 seemed a little long. So 15 seconds each. And so you can have these little snippets that you're sharing with people throughout the day, and it helps people to get to know, who is this person, if they don't already know you in real life. Or if they do know you, they may get to know a different aspect of you because they kind of walk through your day with you. And both of us have used stories quite a bit, and both platforms are really open to that. I would say Facebook is more of a connection space. It's more of a, get to know people, get to be able to connect with people
in groups,
in
events. You can organize a little bit better with especially things like churches or clubs or a different community, more smaller community type focus. You can have the what is it called when they have just like you can all be part of a group, an event basically, and like a private group. Basically, it is a group. You can set up private groups if you had a business that you only access
like
private
VIP
groups for
group
people,
type thing.
so that you can have, again, creating that community feel,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people do and find beneficial. And then TikTok, none of us have been on that very much, but I think it is again where you need to explore. If you haven't been on a platform very much, don't just go on, because I've done this before, where you get on and it's like, I don't understand this and I can't understand it. No, it's going to take time, just like the first time you got on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Find people, look at people who are in your genre,
Right.
see what are they doing,
Right.
how are people responding to them, and then make your tweaks, kind of imitate without stealing, but then kind of get a feel for what they're doing. But spend 10 hours or so watching what other people are doing, how the platform works, and then start making your own content. And I think
10 hours before you start posting?
I'd say that's a good idea.
Oh. I say go for it. I say do it right away. Just start making your own video and then you learn as you go. That's my suggestion. Because I feel like if sometimes we get so in learn mode, then we get paralyzed. Well, I'm not going to do this right. I'm not going to do that right. And I don't think you need to spend 10 hours researching. I think you could spend a little bit of time learning how the platform works and then just start trying it out. And then you can always delete it later if it's that bad. To me, that's my opinion though.
Okay.
I mean, but whatever. Everybody's different. I just thought I'd, say my opinion on that. It might look a little different.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I just think sometimes we can get paralyzed,
Sure.
with researching and researching and researching. So how about Twitter and LinkedIn? We both used LinkedIn some. I haven't been on there nearly as much as Matt has, but that's more of a business platform, right? To connect with people that are potentially wanting to hire, someone for their company.
Yeah,
or
LinkedIn can be
connect.
more, again, business to business. If you're wanting to maybe if you're working, more business facing, not necessarily representing yourself. There's a lot of business to business work going on, but also LinkedIn has done a lot of work the past year or two to make it more social, more interactive, and not as strictly business focused. They've tried to add more video content, and so that's another. If you're wanting to be able to have more organic reach, quicker. That might be another area to look at and research a little bit more, because they have been trying to become a little bit more adaptive instead of just being seen as more of a stodgy business, trying to find jobs. They've been trying to expand the past couple years. So that's another one to look into, definitely. And then Twitter, is basically a microblog site. A lot of people use it to get your news, get your sports information, get your updates, instead of going to traditional media. You have 100 characters or so to make a post, so it's a quick attention span. I think it's also a place to have conversations very quickly and get interaction. Not as much video. They do have a video. Capability, but more people use it just for more, like I said, microblogging. But I think there's a lot of potential there too as well, if you're willing to put in the work to interact with people and respond and try to build relationships.
Totally agree. And then Snapchat is one that kind of came along right after we were we're a little bit older than the big generation that used Snapchat, and it still seems to be around and thriving. It's kind of more probably like a couple years younger than us is kind of where people are using this the most. But it doesn't mean that it's not limited to an age range. We just haven't used it as much, and we haven't found as many connections and things there. And I think that's important, just find the platforms that are, again, right for you, right for what you have going on, where you want to make an impact. And there's no limits on that. You can get on Snapchat and still figure it out. There's still ways to be able to connect with people, and it's just a different way. It's usually with short videos or pictures. I know they've added some different features in the last few years since I really used it. You can add little text blurbs over things. So it makes for a way to kind of connect with people kind of in a snap, in a moment. And then a new one to the scene recently has been Clubhouse. And this is kind of like if a podcast and a social media platform had a baby. It's kind of a weird mix of things, but basically anybody can get on there and basically have their own live radio show. It is not recorded, different to a podcast or YouTube series. So it's just, you get on there live. People can join your room, basically listen to you talk, and then you can call people up. They can raise their hand, and then you can have people, basically contribute. You can have them ask questions or contribute in another way, similar to like a call show or radio show. They were just allowing only iPhone users to use that particular platform, and now they've added in Android users. Which is really great, but you do have to have somebody accept you into or invite you into that platform. It's still not really open to just anybody, but likely somebody who's on the platform already, which is great. And it's one that I've really, really enjoyed being a part of, and I'm hoping to dig more into it and get more engaged on it, creating my own content that way. So any other thing about platforms before we continue?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we wanted to talk a quick minute about algorithms changing. So when stories first came out and they were really big, you got a lot of activity there. People were seeing your stories. It was showing up quickly, and numbers were a little bit higher because of that. And posts were not getting kind of maybe the same attention that they were before. And more recently, it's been reels and live videos that have been getting the bigger attention. And so the cheese kind of is always moving and changing. And so I think the key for us here has been find what works for you within the new change. Would you say that kind of fits in?
Yeah, I think you have to understand the game. You're playing on these companies' platforms. You're given free access, and they can change it. They're controlling the game, so they can change it at a moment's notice. You think you have everything set. You've been chugging along. You're doing well, and then all of a sudden, the next day you wake up and they've changed something, and your views or whatever go from 1 to or 100 to 0. Yeah. And so a lot of people get very upset because they've been, married to that algorithm and things working, and they don't want to change and they don't want to adapt.
Right.
And so then they either, go to try to find, all right, then I'm just going to go to TikTok, or they just complain about it. And I think you have to understand that that's kind of the game you're in. You've been given this tool, right, and it's up to you to decide how you want to use it.
Exactly.
And you can either continue to try to learn and see, okay, what's the next thing they're going to do that I need to learn and adapt to that algorithm, or just decide that I'm going to post what I want to post, and maybe I'm going to grow slower, maybe I'm going to lose some followers, but I'm just going to continue to do the things that I want to do regardless of what the platform is doing. And I think that's really up to you. Have to decide that based on what your goals are. And maybe it's a balance, maybe it's a medium, maybe you try to play the game a little bit. But because I think if you do try to play the game, it can be very, very frustrating because, again, you're kind of letting outside forces control how you're going to act.
Yeah, and so you can decide how you approach this. So if you decide to approach it from, hey, I have a new opportunity to build in a different way and connect with people in a different way, then it can be a really great opportunity and really great experience. But if you want to just look at it from, oh man, what I was doing before is not working anymore, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting bogged down, we have a new opportunity. And I think one really great example of this was a little while back, they added in Reels, and Matt saw some changes that were coming with Reels, and he had a choice to make about how he was going to address that. Are you going to share that
I'm not
story,
exactly sure what you're referring to, but
so okay, I thought, okay, so basically one of Matt's big things that he tries to do with his platforms, something that he is very passionate about, is teaching people and adding value, and not just doing a video to just do a video, not just having a post to have a post, like actually adding value. And so he was trying to figure out a way to make a reel where it wasn't, now if you're not familiar, a reel is a very quick, is it 30 seconds or something like that? It's a very quick little video.
15 seconds or 30 seconds.
Okay, it's a very quick little video, and you can add in video, you can add in images, you can do all these different things, but it's like a quick little video kind of platform. You can add in music, and so this is a really fun way to just kind of like see a little snippet of some things that people are sharing, right? And so for him, he didn't know what it was going to look like to try to educate people through a reel, and he was wondering, is it even possible? And so we kind of explored some different ways to make it happen and to help him understand how that would look. And now he's been able to do a lot of videos where he's been educating and showing people different things with his outfits, with shoes, with different things like that from the Design Man side.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to figure out what you're willing to do, because there's some people that are very skilled on Instagram and other platforms that they look like they're experts in videography. And if you're intimidated by that, then you're just not going to create anything,
right? Because
you may not be up to that standard. And so you have to decide, is this one, am I passionate about, am I going to learn to get up to that level and spend the hours required, or to get the equipment, or get the apps, or get the training.
Yeah.
And are you really invested in that enough to get to that level, or are you going to do the best if you're on your own and you have to shoot it yourself? You don't have somebody who's going to help you shoot. Then are you going to do the best you can with what you have and be okay with that, and not feel like you're not producing up to the level of content that others are? And so those are choices that you're going to have to make that are difficult, because it's very easy to feel like you're not good enough, or your content isn't up to these other people's level. And so you have to really be true to what your ideas are and what your goal is from your content. Because if it's just to make a really cool video, then you may have to do a lot more work to get up to that level. Now, if it's to share just content and information, you can do that. But you have to accept that you may not get the interaction or the publicity that other people will, who have, at least at that time, a different level of skill in shooting videos and making content.
Yeah, but I don't think that should stop us from still putting ourselves out there, because it's a lot more relatable to see somebody actually going for it than to see somebody who's put together this perfect video and things like that. So I always am reminded of B- work changes lives way more than A+ work does. And because A+ work doesn't often even get out there. And so I think what you're doing, and so many other people who don't necessarily have the professional background, the professional photography side of things, or videography side of things, are doing, can be really inspiring to the average person who doesn't really know how to do that stuff, but they've still figured it out. Like, you've gotten better at Reels, you've gotten better at those things because you've just practiced it, you've just done it and put yourself out there like that.
The other part of it is that even when you have to understand too that, because you could put out a reel that you think is your best one, and you put it out at the wrong time of day, and it gets 50 views. You put out another one that you put together very quickly, and you don't think is as good, and you put it out at the right time, and it gets 3,000. And so that can be very frustrating too, because you put in a lot of work in one and it gets less than 100 views, and you put in barely any work in one and it gets 3,000. And so you want, again, either you decide, okay, I'm going to try to figure out what was was it really the wrong time? Do I need to be posting at a different time of day, or was this just a glitch, or was it just the algorithm changed from this week to last week? And you just kind of have to really just laugh at it and say, all right, it's a game. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep putting out content regardless of what the outcome is.
Agreed.
Because maybe that reel or post that only reached 50 people, maybe you reached one right person that's gonna be a customer or a contact for years to come. Whereas the post that got 3,000 likes or whatever, maybe nobody of any influence or any impact really watched that one. And so you just have to, if you're committed to what you're doing, if you love what you're doing, then you have to kind of get away from the numbers of how many people saw it, how many people watched, how many people commented.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is the hardest with doing this kind of work is you have to detach your self-worth from how many likes, how many followers, how many views, and remember that less likes or any of those things, less numbers, does not mean that you're less as a person. And I think it's so easy for me, number one, to not have that view of myself that's negative when I have less views or less likes or all those things, and my numbers are not quite as high as they were before. Before we move on, did you have anything else?
Well, when those things happen, when you post something that's disappointing as far as how many likes go, or followers, or sales, I try to ask myself, if nobody watched this or saw this, am I doing what I like to do? Would I still post this? And if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter. Then you can release that and know that you stayed true to what your goal is, stayed true to yourself. You put out, as Seth Godin says, you ship the work, you put out what you were supposed to put out, regardless of the outcome. And whatever happens to it is out of your hands. You showed up, you did it,
Right.
and whether or not people accepted it, loved it, even saw it, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Because you did your part, you showed up, and you shipped the work. And that really has helped me when I don't get the results that I want, or people don't seem to like what I do. If I can really say, all right, I did the right thing, this is what I wanted to do, I put in an A effort, then I feel better about not getting the results. And I think the opposite of that is true as well. You have to, if you have something that you just goes viral or viral for you, you still need to ask that question, because maybe it was just luck. Maybe it wasn't, did you really put in the same effort? Was that really what you should have put out? Or were you trying to play to the headlines? Were you trying to ride a wave that maybe isn't really what you should be doing at the time? And so it should always be the same thing. Did I post something? Did I ship the work that I needed to do? And that helps keep you level-headed when things are really good or when things don't go as you would have liked them to go.
I like that a lot. Like, you're not riding the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster of seeing the numbers go up and down, but you're focusing on, is this really the work that I know that aligns with who I am and how I want to show up in the world? I think that's brilliant. So the last thing we wanted to make sure to do is give you guys some quick tips. But before we do that, I just want to say a quick reminder, we will be answering questions live, so please post any questions that you have either on Instagram or on Facebook. We'd love for you to post your questions and for us to have a moment to chat with you about what it is that you have questions about when it comes to social media. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to also post those questions. So some quick tips that I have, post from the heart. Whatever you share, whatever it's stories or whatever else, post from the heart. Don't try to show up in a way on social media, and you kind of touched on this, and I thought that was really good, that doesn't align with who you are. You always want whatever it is that you're sharing to align with who you are. Of course, be filtered through respectfulness and love and a way to help, hopefully, educate or add value or share in life in a positive way, like we talked about in our last episode. But I think sharing from the heart is really important. And don't be afraid to share your story. This is another thing I think that we often, we think our story isn't important, And often it's stories and it's pain that help us connect to other people. And so sharing your story can be really powerful for someone else. And then also, sharing your story can be really important because it can help people get to know you in a different way. And then the more they trust you and they have feel like they have a relationship with you, the more they're gonna want to connect with you about business or about whatever it is that you're about. And then post consistently. This is another thing that we've sort of touched on already, but I'm sure Matt will have more to say about this. But when you're showing up consistently, even if it's not perfect, it's still helping people to hear from you and see you on a regular basis, and then they start to remember you. They start to know, oh, this is what they're doing. They're doing No More Somedays again on Sunday nights or whatever it is. And think about, what would I like to read? What would I like to learn about? What would I like to hear about? Share those things, You don't have to share from a place that you don't have experience. And then also learn out loud. I think this is an incredible one to be able to just share, like, hey, I read in a book the other day, and you share the quote, or you share something that you learned in a class or in a workshop or in a sermon or whatever it is. Just sharing what you're learning with other people and adding value in that way. So did you have any tips?
I think like you have to find that balance of posting what you want while still, I don't think you have to share everything on social media. Again, this is your world. This is if you don't want to delve into politics, there's a lot of pressure back in a few months ago that everybody needs to comment on some political issue. I don't think that is necessarily required. You get to decide how you show up in this space. Right. Some people that are more celebrities decide to bring their family onto social media, and some it's just them, and they don't talk about their wife, they don't talk about their kids, and that's totally their business. So it's your business how you show up. But you also then want to be careful about not acting like everything's just perfect. We talk about everything on social media is just whitewashed, and I have such a great life. Look at my amazing pictures, my vacation, my cars, whatever. So I think if depending on, again, what is your brand, how do you want to show up, you have to decide, I have to show some darker sides of things. I have to show that I do have some struggles. I am a human. Things do bother me. And so it's your space. You get to decide how to show up, and it's a work in progress, not judging how things go. If you have a bad video, okay, it's a learning process. The next one will be better, and continue to grow from there. I think the other thing is, it's not just posting, it's interacting. Especially if you're a smaller account, you have to put in the work to go interact legitimately on other people's content, not just great job or fire emojis and think that other people are going to follow you because you posted that. No, you have to do, again, like we said at the beginning, if you want to grow, especially organically, you have to do work to find people who are interested in what you're talking about and go comment on their posts. But not just that, see who are following them and try to figure out what they're about. Can I post something helpful on their comment so that then they're like, hey, who's this? I'm gonna go look at them.
Yeah, right.
Because like I said, you see if you think, again, if you're really trying to grow on social media, you'll get a lot of tips from different people, and there's different ways to try to do this. Some people say make sure your comment is at least 4 words on something that's going to help you boost your whatever. I would just say to really be legitimate, as if you were talking to them in real life.
Right.
They asked your opinion on something, you had to say something. What would you actually say to them? Right. And it wouldn't be thumbs up, fire, at 100, it would be something real. Yeah. And so
Words.
And the thing is that people, hopefully, they're going to see, because another funny thing that happens, especially in the fashion space, somebody will post a picture, it'll be really nice, they'll be in a suit and whatever, and it looks great, but then their wording will be something serious, like, I'm struggling with XYZ. But because people don't read the caption, they think it's just a picture about their suit, and they'll be like, fire, and that's awesome, and I love it. And it's actually a really serious post, but it's obvious that they didn't even read it.
Right.
They just were trying to get engagement scores and posted something ludicrous. And so don't be that person.
Right.
really do the work to figure out how you can contribute to the conversation, and then hopefully, those people will come and they'll find you, and you'll be able to make connections that way.
Yeah, and I think you see this. I mean, I've built relationships on social media with people because we've just interacted on each other's posts and we've messaged. I think don't be afraid to message somebody and just be like, hey, I saw XYZ post and I really loved it. Or if somebody likes your post, it's not inappropriate to say, hey, thanks so much for liking my post and following me, and ask something about them if you don't already know them. Have you heard of XYZ before? If that's something that if your post is on dog adoption, you could say, hey, have you heard of this rescue before? Hey, are you a fan of dog adoptions or whatever? I don't know. You could just start the conversation that way in a private message, which is a wonderful way to also get the conversation started as if you're sitting across the table from them. So right now I don't see that we have any questions. I really think that one of the biggest things that can really help you, from at least from my perspective, is just showing up, like Matt said, as if the person is sitting across from you at a table, and being real, being authentic, sharing the darker and the lighter moments. You don't have to share everything. You can, I think some privacy is still very, very good and a healthy thing, but it's also helpful for other people to see some of your struggles, or to see some kind of from a generic side of things. You can still share some of who you are, and that can help people know who you are better. Like I said, we can connect through the pain. So we really want you guys to be able to succeed in whatever it is that you want to pursue with social media, and to see that growth, to see that those connections. And even if you don't have a huge following, or you don't want to have a huge following, but you want to impact people, it just takes one person. You don't have to have thousands or hundreds of thousands or whatever followers to do that, to impact one person. And so just think about impacting one person at a time, and loving on them, and treating them like they're the only person in the room, kind of thing. So please feel free to post any other questions that you guys have. Do you have any other comments?
I don't think so.
All right. So don't forget to follow us at No More Some Days with a Z on Instagram if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing, and follow our journey. We need to be a little bit more consistent. Speaking of consistency, posting on there. And of course, you can watch our videos on YouTube. Just search No More Some Days. And I'm trying to think what else we're on. Of course, we'll try to be back again in the coming weeks with every Sunday coming live. And I think we are now at episode 40, or right around there. And we are officially past the 1 year mark, I believe, of our first episode. So that's incredible. It's been a really fast first year, and we hope you guys have really, really enjoyed it. We certainly have, and we're just excited to continue to connect with you guys and share valuable content and things that we're learning as we go along the way. So yeah, let us know what questions you have, and we look forward to connecting with you guys soon and seeing you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.